All right, so I might start off with just a couple of questions, just while we wait, just to see, there might be a couple more people that might join before we get started. So I wanted to ask you to ponder on, would you prefer to feel bored or frustrated? And the next one, would you prefer to feel free or peaceful? And the final one, would you prefer to feel disappointed or angry? So something to ponder on before we get started. So I'd like to start off with an acknowledgement of country, and I'd like to acknowledge the Dja Dja Wurrung speaking people of the Kulin Nation for looking after, caring for, tending to this beautiful land that I am on, sharing this presentation with you. And I'd like to acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders for looking after, caring for, tending to, and working harmoniously, living harmoniously with this land for so long. And I'd also like to acknowledge the beautiful land that we get to call home, this earth. And she supports us and nourishes us, cares for us and feeds us. And we get to play in her nature, so honouring her. So I will now just share a disclaimer just before we get started. And actually, just to give everyone the heads up as well, this is streaming to my Facebook page. So if you're not comfortable with that, then please keep yourself on, take your video off, or change your name if that is something that you need to do to keep your privacy. So the information in this webinar is for educational purposes only and is not intended in any way to be a replacement for or substitute to qualified medical advice, diagnosis or treatment, or as a replacement for or substitute to psychological advice, diagnosis or treatment, or therapy from a fully qualified person. Should you have medical concerns, please seek independent advice. Please take full responsibility for your level of engagement with the content in this webinar. And as you engage with this webinar, should it raise any concerns for you, please seek advice from a mental health professional or call Lifeline on 131114. So welcome, thank you so much for joining me. This is a very exciting time for me to finally, after 3 years, bringing all of this information that I have learned along the way, personally and professionally, to deliver in hopefully an engaging and inspiring way for you beautiful teachers. And perhaps we have parents as well who are either watching live or watching the replay, and perhaps we have teachers' aides, or just people in general who have children in their lives and you really want to support them with their mental health. So welcome. Okay. Just trying to work out why my slide is not going to the next one. Don't you love technology? That should be, here we go. Oh, great, okay, cool. So that's the number for Lifeline if you need that. So first of all, I want to speak to the teachers and just say to you that you are incredible human beings. I was a teacher before I became a mother, and I know how tireless this job is and how busy and overwhelming it can be. I also know how incredible and beautiful and rewarding it can be. But I'm just reflecting on the last couple of years that we've had, and I've been overblown by the incredible efforts that you as teachers and support staff have been able to, have had to do in order for education to work throughout these incredible times. So from my heart to yours, thank you. So these are the words, what we're doing isn't working, words that I heard a friend of mine that I went to uni with, and who's a teacher, he's a Year 8 coordinator, and he's completely overwhelmed by how many students are struggling with their mental health. And I am excited to share this information. It really is like you, after receiving the information that you'll gain tonight, you hold the power for change. So there's some really exciting things coming out now in terms of neuroscience and why our students are struggling with their mental health. And I'm really excited to share some really practical strategies that you guys can use that can really make that change, that significant change in your students' lives. So these are the 3 parts that I'll be going through tonight. So first of all, and I just want to say I did not like science when I was at school. Science was not my best friend, but having had depression for 22 years and then coming out of it by learning about the latest neuroscience, it has just had me fall in love with the neuroscience. So I'm very excited to be sharing with you the neuroscience, what it's showing us and what our students actually need to support their own mental health. The second part I'll be showing you is the 3 things that inhibit your students' capacity to stay resilient or to be resilient. And thirdly, I'll be showing you quick, simple, easy, no more than 30-second classroom strategies that you can use with your students that will support their mental health. So I know how busy you are, and I have made this presentation as digestible as I can for you to implement these strategies tomorrow. So to introduce me, my name is Bronte Spicer and I am a mum of 3 beautiful children. Jackson is in grade 1 at Spring Gully Primary and Ivy has just started prep at Spring Gully Primary in Victoria, Australia. And I've also got Maggie who's just started 3-year-old kinder. And I had a career as a primary school teacher and then a special ed teacher before I had children. Throughout all of that time, from the age of 14 to 36 years of age, I suffered from depression. I was on antidepressants from the age of 23 to 36. And it wasn't until I stumbled across a set of advanced mindfulness or self-inquiry techniques or tools that completely changed everything. Having had spent countless sessions with psychologists and counsellors, working with mindfulness, CBT, trying to change my mindset from negative to positive affirmations, meditation. I even became a meditation teacher, which did give me some relief, but none of that took my depression away. Looking back, the therapy that I received from my psychologists and counsellors was very cognitive based. It was mind based. It was like, right, how do we fix the negative thoughts? And what changed everything for me was a body-based approach to supporting and improving mental health. And I was so taken by this and so moved that I used these techniques to overcome my depression. My depression just kind of fell away. I relied on these techniques, and this is all supported by the latest neuroscience on trauma, the body and the brain. I was so moved by it that I just didn't want other people, because I thought there was something wrong with me because I had depression for so long. I thought there's something wrong with me. But actually what I found was that there was a pivotal piece that was missing in my therapy, a pivotal piece that was missing in my education, and no one showed me how to feel my feelings. No one showed me how to feel my feelings. And if you think about it, we do a lot about emotional literacy. We're talking about our feelings, we're labeling feelings, and that is a cognitive based approach to engaging with feelings. But feelings are in our bodies. And so for me, my depression really was exacerbated by this fear of going towards my pain that I felt that I had in my body from trauma, like family separation, being bullied at netball, and so on. And so I had emotional baggage stored and building up in my body. And I thought if I went to my feelings, I thought I would die. I would literally die. So I was stuck in my head, and I had really intense, feelings of dread and overwhelm, so much so that sometimes I couldn't get out of bed. And what changed all of that was learning how to feel safe, to come into my body and feel safe with the emotions, with the physical sensations, with the feelings in my body. And also, I was also shown how to feel safe with negative thoughts, and also feel safe with bad memories that I had as well. So last year I published my book, It's Okay to Cry, and I'll give you the link for those of you who would like a copy and haven't got one yet. We launched it at the Stupa just in and around lockdowns. And so this is what I do. I teach both adults, mainly parents, and also now teachers and children, how to practice these tools so they feel safe within themselves, so they feel safe with the negative thoughts and feel safe with their intense emotions. So our students need more than mindfulness, emotional literacy and solutions. So we can be very good at, if we have one of our students who's feeling sad, we don't necessarily feel very comfortable with a student feeling sad. So often our go-to is we want to help them, we want to find the solution to their problem. Again, this is all cognitive based, and there's not this connection to the body and feeling safe with their experience, which includes the emotions that are coming up. Mindfulness is great, emotional literacy is important, labeling emotions is important, and it's a part of the piece, but our students need explicit instruction to know how to manage and feel safe and be with their emotions. So interoception is integral for mental health. So in my experience, what I realized was that well, actually, let's talk about what interoception is, because that will be perhaps an unfamiliar term. Cool. So interoception. So interoception, a really easy definition for interoception is feeling your feelings. And this is from the Department of Education in South Australia. Interoception is the capacity to be aware, to notice, recognize, identify, and respond to the internal states of the body. It's known as the eighth sense. Interoception skills are needed for functions such as knowing when to go to the toilet, being aware that you're becoming angry or upset, or being able to manage your emotions proactively. So this is the missing piece. We are talking about our feelings, and we're talking about our problems, and we're not actually showing our students how to come into the body to feel safe with the intensity of their emotions. Teenagers, we know in terms of physiological changes that they experience more intense emotions. So our students really need to know these strategies before they get to that, hopefully, ideally. So in order to know the root of anxiety and depression, we need to start with trauma. So anxiety and depression and mental illness starts with trauma. So trauma, luckily we've really kind of caught up with what trauma is over the last few years, and more of us are becoming trauma informed. What it means to be trauma informed is basically that trauma is subjective, and it's not necessarily those big key moments that we think of as traumatic events, like war or rape or physical violence. Yes, they are included, absolutely, and I don't want to diminish those experiences. I also want to open it up to for us all to be aware that we have all experienced some level of trauma. What can happen is, well, I'll move on to the next slide. So this is Dan Siegel, and he's a childhood development and trauma specialist, and he describes trauma as an experience that overwhelms our capacity to cope. So if you can think of an experience where there is something is happening, and what's happening is our body and brain and mind are overwhelmed by how much information and energy is coming in to be processed. And so what can happen, or what happens, is that we're moving from a state of a sense of safety to a connection to ourselves and to others or the world around us, and we're moving into a state of protection. So we have a process called neuroception, which means that we have many different receptors in our bodies that are on alert and watching for cues to check that the environment that you're in is safe. And so what happens during a traumatic or distressing experience is that the brain and the body and the mind are overwhelmed by how much information is coming in, that it has trouble to process what's happened. And so lots of changes happen in the brain now they know that, and well, scientists know that, and as a result we have displaced, we have incomplete trauma, and we have unprocessed memory and unprocessed emotional memory from that experience. And what comes from that is we have emotional memory that is stored in the body, and which affects our nervous system states. So Gabor Mate, if you are interested in learning more about trauma, this movie called The Wisdom of Trauma by Gabor Mate is absolutely worth looking at. And he once said that trauma, or I'm sure he said it many times now, he has said that trauma isn't what happens to you, it's what happens inside you as a result of what has happened to you. So it's moving away from this idea of, well, I should be fine because nothing really has happened to me, or that, you know, that person shouldn't feel like that because they haven't experienced XYZ. This person, I can understand why they have mental illness because they've experienced XYZ. So, and it's moving into understanding that we are all completely different, and we can perceive the same experience in a different way and make it mean something different. It really depends on how we have perceived that experience. And there's also an automatic response here as well with the nervous system that we have no control over as well. So if you if you have a think about some students in your classroom, they may be experiencing depression and anxiety. They may be in a nervous system state of protection, and they have no control over it. It's the body's way of making sure that they feel safe, or that they are safe and they're not going to die. So it's like this survival reptilian brain response. It's like the oldest branch to our nervous system. It's this system that helps us survive, and it's a lot of it is out of our control. I also want to share that all of this can be repaired as well. So no one is, you know, it's not the end of the world for everyone. When we have the tools like what I'm going to share with you tonight, when we have this, we can resolve our trauma, and we can self-regulate, and we can feel safe in challenging environments. We can feel resilient. Okay, having trouble with my slides again. Okay, there we go. Cool. All right, so there is big trauma and little trauma. So this is important to know. If you have a think about your students, you may know that some students have had big trauma, which is perhaps something like family separation or domestic violence or sexual assault, or it could be a car crash. I'm not going to list all of them, but that is like a significant trauma. And at the same time, we might have little traumas in between. That might be maybe a grade 6 kid has said to a little preppy in the playground, "You look ugly." Or maybe it's one of your students has like raised their hand and answered a question and everybody in the classroom has laughed. Or maybe maybe one of your students is sorry, that one just went. Maybe you as the teacher you've looked at this certain student in a certain way and they have made it mean something about themselves, and they've just in that moment they've decided something negative about themselves, or they feel a certain sense of deficiency about themselves from that moment. Now I also want to share too that trauma is inevitable. So it doesn't really matter what you do. If you're like trying to make sure you don't traumatize your students, I want you to know that it is inevitable, that our students will experience trauma. And with these tools that I'm sharing with you, you can support that connection to themselves and their bodies so they can self-regulate and self-manage. Okay, so this changed my understanding when I learnt this about the nervous system. So there are actually 3 nervous system states. Often, or in the past, we've thought that there were only the 2, that there was the rest digest, which is that calm state of rest where we're feeling safe and we're feeling connected with ourselves, with each other, with the world around us. We feel safe and we're in that place of connection rather than protection. Then we also, it's widely known, the fight-flight response. So when we are perceiving threat, then our body moves into a dominant state, which is either ready to fight or flee from a situation. So in this state, what happens is that our whole physiology changes. And so I think this is all kind of common knowledge that we might have a racing heart, or perhaps we have blood pumping to all areas of the body. So it's ready to go. Now, this third nervous system state was a bit of a game changer in terms of how I understood my own mental illness and just how we are in the world. It answered a whole lot of unanswered questions, I guess. And so this nervous system state is called the freeze, please, or sometimes it's called the fawn response. Or if you want to get really technical, the freeze and the fawn are separate in their own right. So what this does, and just in recent years, a new theory has come about called polyvagal theory. And so it shows us that there is a hierarchy with how our nervous systems work together. So they interplay, they work together. Obviously, ideally, we want to be in the rest digest state, but we're not always. So we always throughout the day, we are moving in and out of the different states. And this freeze, I just want to share a little bit more about the freeze, please response. I guess this made a lot of sense to me because when the freeze please state is really what we do when we don't feel safe. It's a state in our nervous system that has us withdraw and shut down and not necessarily reach out for support and help. So we know what it's like for our students. Often it can be they don't come and ask for help because, you know, they're scared or they don't want to be picked on or any other there's a whole range of reasons why perhaps they're not asking for help. And this could be part of it, that they are in this shutdown, retreating phase. And I guess to give you a little bit more personal understanding of what it's like with depression, the more I was given advice from other people to help my mental health get better, the more I retreated. So the more that we can hold space and listen and allow the person to be just as they are, the safer they will feel to come out and to connect with you. So yeah, I'll share more on the next slide. So I went into this a little bit before. This is what as I said before, there's lots of changes that happen in the brain when we experience a traumatic event. And so one of the things is that cortisol is released to help us move into that fight-flight response. So we're ready to go. And as a result of that, the hippocampus in our brain goes offline. And the hippocampus is responsible for integrating memory. And so when that goes offline, our ability to integrate the memory and integrate the experience decreases. And then as a result of that, we have unprocessed memory or unprocessed emotional baggage in the body. So we know it as emotional baggage. And so that then binds to our nervous system states. And what can happen is if we don't process that traumatic event and we have an incomplete trauma cycle, that's what it's called. If we haven't integrated the memory, then our nervous systems can get stuck in either the fight-flight response or the freeze-please response, and we never quite make it back to the rest-digest. And so you can think about it over time. Developmental trauma is where you just have some trauma here and then some more trauma and then some more trauma and more trauma. And so perhaps that's why as adults we are going about life and by the end of the day we just need a glass of wine to take the edge off things. Perhaps that's why, you know, we feel quite heavy or we feel so bound because we have this unprocessed emotional baggage that has that our nervous system has adapted to because we have not integrated those experiences. So what I want this message to get across is it's important for our students to have the tools and strategies so they know how to process and integrate a traumatic or distressing experience. So I've spoken about this, but this just shows you the polyvagal chart in terms of, so the green down the bottom is our rest digest state. And then the yellow in the middle is the fight-flight response or nervous system state, and the top one is the freeze please. So the polyvagal theory shows us that we naturally start in rest digest. And let's just talk a little bit about when we're a baby, when as a baby, if we're cuddled and nurtured and rocked and we have that body contact with our caregivers, then our nervous systems are growing and developing in a healthy way where we feel safe with ourselves, we feel safe with the people around us, and then we feel safe with the world around us. So that's a great precursor. That's what our students need. Obviously, not all of our students have had that. So So they may be more susceptible to having this bound nervous system state. So they're more likely to be experiencing life from the fight-flight response, or perhaps the freeze-freeze response. And so there is a hierarchy with this. So what can happen is, we're shifting in and out of the fight-flight response and the rest digest. And if we're constantly trying to battle threats, perceived threats, what can happen is the fight-flight response can fatigue, and then the freeze-please response kicks in as like a last-ditch effort, because it's like the fight-flight response is done, it's depleted, and the freeze response comes in as if you can kind of think of it as like an ancient perspective, as we are, as with us being animals, the freeze response is like a playing dead response. So again, if you think about your students, those students who are slow, lethargic, low in energy, they may be stuck in that freeze response, and they need support to amp up, to like rev their energy back into the rest digest. Whereas those students who are antsy, they can't concentrate, maybe they're mucking around with other students in the classroom, they're finding it hard to focus and concentrate, then they may be operating from that fight-flight response, and they need support to calm down, to come back to that natural rest. So this is important to know that mental illness, depression, anxiety, it's not all in the head. A lot of it's a physiological issue, and the more that we show our students how to self-regulate, and they actually need like the tools to be able to know how to do that. I can honestly say I did not know how to self-regulate until the last couple of years of my life. I might have been living under a rock, but I don't remember being taught how to do that from my parents or from any of my schooling. And then of course I was a teacher as well. I used to teach all about emotions, and but there was no actual connection with emotions as in feelings within our bodies. Just grab a drink of water. So we'll have question time as well towards the end. So disconnection from safety can lead to dissociation. So dissociation, what dissociation is a disconnection between the body and the mind. So anyone who's struggling with their mental health, I want to wager that they're stuck in their heads. There is a disconnect between the mind and the body. And when I had depression, I had no idea what was going on in my body. I did have the odd feeling like a big dark black energy was going to come over and take me down, and it sounds crazy, but that's what my experience was. This sense of dread. Now I have the words for it. It was dread, but I also had this sense that there was this big black hole, and I would just, like, if I went down into my past or my pain or my trauma, I wouldn't have called it trauma at the time because I didn't think that I was traumatized. If I went into my past, my pain, I would just get swallowed up by this big black hole. But aside from that, I had no awareness of really where my feelings were in my body. And so that's what dissociation is. So what we want is we want students who have a really strong, healthy connection with their bodies, with the sensations in their bodies. And those sensations are their feelings. So, and again, when we're disconnected, then we're more likely to withdraw. We don't feel safe to connect with the world. We don't feel safe to connect with other people around us. We certainly don't feel safe connect with ourselves. And then obviously we're seeing, you know, a crazy amount of screen usage, phone usage, and that is a huge barrier for our students to actually learn how to feel a sense of satisfaction, a sense of pleasure, a sense of joy, a sense of fulfillment in being themselves, in being with themselves. So more than ever, they need this support and explicit instruction. So I think I've explained most of this, the polyvagal theory. And yes, trauma can be resolved and repaired. And I hope I haven't overwhelmed you with this information, but it's important to know so you can support your students in the way that they need, because there's a lot going on, right? They might just look like they're, you know, they're doing the activities that are set, but underneath the surface, there's a whole lot more going on. We've talked about their nervous system and what's happening there, and then we'll soon talk about what meaning they're making, what experience, what lens they're actually looking at the world from. One point here before I move on is co-regulation. So we naturally co-regulate with others. So and what that means is that we can regulate our nervous systems with other people who are regulated, who are predominantly in that rest digest state or phase. We can also co-dysregulate with other people. So if you think about, let's just say you're in the classroom and the students have just given you a hell of a day, and they're ratty, and you're naturally going to feel ratty, but just being in their company. Or perhaps it goes the other way. Perhaps you just had like the most horrible week. You've somehow shown up to work, and they're responding to your nervous system state. So it's good to know that. I mean, so your job as the teacher is to learn how to feel safe with your own thoughts and feelings, so you can self-regulate, so they feel safer, and then they can co-regulate with you. And then obviously we want to build these students, we want to give these students opportunities to develop this ability to self-regulate. But I also want to say too that that takes time. It's easy to say, you know, you just need to self-regulate. Well, they need to actually know how to do that, which I'll explain how to do that later on. Okay, so I'm just going to go into more into what's happening under the surface of your students. So when we experience traumatic experiences, and if you're not really vibing or relating to the word traumatic, you can just say distressing experience or stressful experiences. They're all similar. So when your students experience a distressing experience or a traumatic experience, they will make meaning from that experience. So here's an example. The girl on the left has been to soccer training, and someone on her soccer team laughed at her at training. So in her mind, she's thinking, I don't want to be here. And then she has also decided from this, because this peer has laughed at her at training, she's decided that she's a loser. So this is a story, this is a belief now, this is a negative story that she has about herself. And underneath that could be this sense that there's something wrong with me. And the amount of people that I have worked with, adults who have had this sense that there's something wrong with them, the numbers are quite high. So it's important to know that we all have negative self-beliefs. And while we really want to talk about the positives, in order for our children, our students, to learn how to navigate life and feel safe with themselves and be connected citizens in the world, they need to be able to manage all facets of life which includes the challenging parts. So I would say, I would wager to say that people with depression and anxiety have a stronger association to these negative self-beliefs. People who don't suffer from anxiety and depression, yeah, they might hear these negative thoughts come and go, or if something, you know, something hard happens, like maybe you're grieving someone passing, or maybe something bad happened at work, maybe it might spark a sense of doubt within you, and these negative thoughts might become louder. And I guess that happens with, certainly happened for me as well. Even when I had depression, my level of, like, my sense of negativity about myself did go up and down. But these are some examples that we don't often like to look at, but they are a part of our students' experience. So underneath the surface, you know, they might just look like they're just hanging out in the classroom or doing the activities, but at the same time they're also battling in their head, and they may not say it. They certainly wouldn't say it, but they are thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm a loser, I'm shit, I'm crap, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm boring, there's something wrong with me, I'm weak, I'm a failure, no one wants me, I can't trust anyone, it's not safe to say what I think. And so coupled with the body sensations, the feelings, the nervous system responses, that's when anxiety and depression takes over, and being alive is not easy. So this just shows, so a deficient, I call negative self-beliefs deficiency stories, because they're stories that our students have about themselves that tell them that they are deficient in some way. And underneath the deficiency story is a core deficiency story. So maybe, perhaps the core deficiency story could be, I'm not good enough. And then a deficiency story from that could be, I'm not good enough at maths. Or I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not fast enough. And so what happens is that our everyday problems, or our students' everyday problems, is always linked, it always starts, it's always driven by these negative self-beliefs. This was a bit of a game changer, and if you want to know more about this, then I invite you to read my book if you want to do your own work for you. And in saying that, actually, the more that you understand yourself, and the safer that you feel within yourself with your own thoughts and feelings, the more that you can self-regulate, and the more that you can model this to your students, so they can feel like, oh, there's actually nothing wrong with having negative beliefs. Like, I think that was a huge part to my healing and overcoming depression, that it was like, oh, it's all right. Like, having negative beliefs it's normal. Like, we don't talk about it, and perhaps when we talk about it, the people around us are like, no, you're not, you're like beautiful and you're amazing, and you get all the positive feedback. But it's like, but what do we actually do? What do we do with these negative beliefs? How do we feel safe with these negative beliefs, and coupled with intense emotions? So this is probably one of the first techniques, one of the first strategies that you could ask. Everyone can see that, I'm assuming. Let me know if you can't. Maybe down the bottom you can't see. The core deficiency story here is, I'm shit. So I'm intentionally using language that you'll hear from teenagers, and I know that we'll have teachers and teachers who are primary school students and secondary school students, so I can speak for both. So in this case, this shows you how a problem that one of your students might have, it stems from their deficiency stories. So this student's problem is, I failed my maths assignment, and he's thinking in his head, I'm not telling anyone. So maybe there's a sense of shame there. And then underneath that, he's just decided he's shit at maths because he's failed his maths assignment. And then underneath that, this could be a core deficiency story that can then drive into lots of different areas in his life from then on. I'm shit at driving, I'm shit at relationships, I'm shit at cooking, whatever it is. So it can splay out into all different areas, and then we continue to live from these habits unless we resolve the trauma, unless we come and feel the feelings, process and integrate those original experiences, or perhaps just the momentary experiences. So this is probably the first strategy that you can take away and make sure you write down. And this is if you have a student coming to you with a problem, and I would use this strategy for anyone from grade 5, 6 upwards. And that's this question: if that was to mean something about you, what would that be? So it's you know, listening to this student, you know, hearing that I failed my maths assignment. And then you can ask in the way that you know how to, with that rapport that you have with your student, if that was to mean something about you, what would that be? Or if that was to say something about you, what would that be? And you might need to give a bit of context, like you could say, does it mean you're terrible? Does it mean you're dumb? Does it mean, you know, give them, not to put words into their mouth, but give them a bit of scaffolding so they know what you mean by that question, because it is a fairly deep question. But I do want to say that I have done this work with students as young as grade 6, and they can get so much out of this self-inquiry work. Okay, so hang on a sec. So I want you to put yourself in the shoes of having a student you know who's struggling or who has a problem, and they're coming to you for support and help. And I've touched on this a little bit around not giving advice and not necessarily telling them all the amazing things that they are, and rather than doing that, actually creating a safe space where they can express themselves and verbalize what they need to and be just as they are. And obviously it's important to have boundaries and guidelines around that as well. Obviously, like punching you or, you know, any kind of physical violence is not okay. But just moving into that space of, rather than trying to fix this person's problem, is there space to listen and also allow that person the space to just express what they need to, without being told what they should do or having solutions thrown down their throat, or being told that they're amazing, because that does not show them how to manage this negativity within them. So holding space is creating that safe space where they can be just as they are. Listening, when we listen, I know, I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, will have done some kind of training on listening. But it is an active practice of learning how to actively listen, practice deep listening, where we are actually listening to what the person is saying, rather than listening to what we will say back to this person to help them feel better, or what we'll do. We're actually putting all of that on hold, and we're listening. We're perhaps making sounds like which is like soothing. This actually helps the nervous system to drop back into the rest digest. Offering you know, simple phrases like "I hear you," or using some empathy, so putting yourself in their shoes and saying something like, if I was in your position, I would be feeling scared too. well, I'd be feeling angry too. And then reflecting back, what that does is it gives like reflecting back to them what you're here, what you've just heard, so they feel heard. So this, what you're doing is you're creating this safe place for them. You're creating a sense of safety and connection. So they do feel safe to come to you, and then they have that line outside of themselves to feel safe. Then you can also ask, you know, would you like some advice? Would you like some guidance? But I really invite you to ask before offering. Because I mean, if you put yourself into the shoes of, let's just say you're just so angry about something, you just really want to vent, you call a friend and then they just tell you what to do. It's like, no, just let me be angry. I just want to be angry. I don't want your answers. I don't want your solutions. I just want to be angry. So that's what our students want. They just want to feel heard. And teenagers, we know they feel misunderstood. So the more that we can move into that space of empathy and into their shoes, then they will feel a sense of, I am heard. So become emotionally available. Again, I would not have known how to do this. I thought emotions were in your head, which sounds ridiculous now. We talk about our emotions a lot, but emotions are in our bodies. So if you put yourself into the shoes of, you've got a student who is struggling, they've come to you, and you're holding space, you're listening, you're reflecting back. You perhaps, probably, because you're human, you won't want to watch them be in pain or be upset. You will want to fix things for them. There will be this compulsion to, you want to help. You don't want to feel hopeless or helpless in this situation. You want to help. And I'm not saying not to help, but what I'm saying is to first hold that space. And that will and does mean that you bring your attention to your body sensations. Notice what is happening in your body, and ask yourself, is there space to allow the discomfort in your body, which we'll practice a little bit soon. Is there space to allow the discomfort in your body to be here as you just listen rather than give advice or try and fix this problem? It's a big one, but what happens is the safer that you feel with this person, with this student who is struggling, the safer they will feel, the stronger the connection is, the more regulated you both become. And then you can look at solutions, and the student perhaps finds their own solutions. And how empowering is that? Where they can trust themselves, and they can realize that I can come up with this. I'm resourceful. I know what to do here. And you're just, just being the spotter on the outside rather than this top-down approach. It's this bottom-up holding space approach. So this is a daily practice for me, mother of 3. It is challenging. It is challenging to be with my own feelings that are coming up as a result of my children's feelings. It's not easy, and it does take time, and it does take practice. So I want you to so the more that you understand these techniques for yourself, the more you'll be able to teach, the easier it will be for you to teach. So one of the techniques I teach is called the boomerang, and so if you think about a boomerang is something that you throw and then it comes back to you. And so what that shows us is basically everything that is happening outside of us, everything that's happening outside of us is a reflection of what is happening within us. So when we're experiencing a problem, it's directly linked to the deficiency story that we have, or the negative self-belief that we have about ourselves or about life in general. So to find the root, to find the core of your student's problem, you can help them by finding what's actually driving this. Is it really about mum who's annoying me and won't let me do what I want? Or is it this deficiency story of I'm out of control? So what I'd like you to do is take a moment here now to think of a problem or an issue in your life, and this is just private, so you don't feel like you're going to have to share or anything. And I want you to think about a problem that you're tackling at the moment. It could be like someone that you're working with, or maybe it's someone you're worried about, or maybe it's a financial problem or something else. And as you look at that problem, just ask yourself this question: if that was to mean something about me, like this issue, if that was to mean something about me, what would that be? And I'd actually love, sharing is absolutely voluntary. If you want to keep it to yourself, do that. But if you feel safe to, just to make sure that that you're on the right track, then I'd love to read some in the chat box. So just to tell you again, think of a problem that you have in your life right now, and then ask yourself, if that was to mean something about me, what would that be? My children don't listen to me. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, perfect, Kylie. Yep. Yep. So the problem is my children don't listen to me. Yeah. And when you tune in, it's from that quiet place, and practicing some basic, maybe I should have, taken you through some basic mindfulness first. We'll do that next. Absolutely. When we come back to a place of rest, back into that rest digest state, nervous system state, and that might include noticing your breath, noticing the sounds you can hear, and then considering this problem. So Kylie's problem is my children don't listen to me. What does that mean about you? I'm a bad parent. I'm not good enough. Yeah, I'm not doing a good enough job. Yeah, that's perfect, Kylie. Does anyone else want to share? Or if you have questions about this, then please take yourself off mute. I might just stop sharing just for a moment so I can see everyone. Ah, it's nice. I'm actually talking to people, not a screen. And think of a problem that you're struggling with, and if you asked yourself, if that was to mean something about me, what would that be? So it's those negative self-beliefs. And there's no pressure here. If you don't feel comfortable sharing, that's totally fine as well. Sonia, my daughter always wants money from me. Yeah. Okay, so if that was to say something about you, or if that was to say something about life, what would that be? She expects me to behave for her, and if I don't, life isn't fair. Yeah. Okay, this is a tricky one because it's like the problem is with her. We want to bring it back to you. So like, what's the worst thing about this for you, Sonia? I feel like I'm a bad mum and feel resentful that she asked. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so within that, there might be a couple of deficiency stories in there, but Sonia, I feel like I'm a bad mum is the deficiency story. The core deficiency story could be I'm bad. So perhaps, you know, years ago, you might have had a moment where you just decided I'm bad. You might have been, maybe you were just told off by your parent in that moment. So that's the core deficiency story, and the deficiency story is I'm a bad mum. So if you think back to your students, the problems that they're having, they all are driven, they all stem back down to these deficiency stories that they have about themselves. Thank you, Kylie and Sonia. Okay, I'll just go back to sharing. Oh, actually, yep, that should be fine. Okay. So that's a good question to ask, you know, to ask your students. So keep that in mind. That will help you get to the bottom of what's actually the problem here. All right, so now we're going to move on into the 3 things that inhibit your students' capacity to be resilient. So resilience, a big buzzword right now, which is obviously our students have demonstrated an incredible amount of resilience in these last couple of years. So there are 2 layers to their capacity to have resilience, and then within those 2 layers there are 3 things. So you can see the Velcro there, and this I'm going to show you the Velcro effect. So you can see that there's the top layer of the Velcro and the bottom layer of the Velcro. So this top layer of the Velcro represents the mind, the thoughts, what's happening in their mind. And the bottom layer of the Velcro is the feelings, what's happening in the body, and that's the body sensations. So the top layer of the Velcro is the mind, and the bottom layer of the Velcro is the body sensations. So let's go back to that deficiency story that boy had, and that was I'm shit. And I'm sorry if that those words are a bit too strong, but I just like to make it real. So the top layer of the Velcro is the mind, and so within the top layer of the Velcro there are words and pictures. So if you think about our thoughts, we have words and pictures that make up our thoughts. So the words are the thoughts that we have. So the words are I am shit. And in pictures in this student's mind, he might see all the times that or a time where he has felt shit. So it's like a memory. And those pictures could be memories, or they could also be future projections of what could go wrong or what might have happened. So the top layer of the Velcro is our thoughts, and the bottom layer is the body sensations or our feelings. Top layer they are in what we call Velcro. So here you can see we've got the words, and I can see my internet's unstable. Everyone hear me okay? Yep. Cool. Okay, thanks, Karen. So everyone can hear me. Perfect. So this is Velcro, right? So when our students feel shit or dumb, then they've got words and pictures in their minds, and they've got feelings in their bodies, body sensations. And Velcro, it's like, is their experience. And so when they're experiencing this, they're not going to, that will inhibit their ability, their capacity to be resilient, because they're overshadowed, they're overwhelmed by this experience that they're feeling deficient in some way. They can feel it and they're hearing it. And so I just remember my worst days with depression. It felt like I had deficiency stories screaming and yelling and like bouncing like tennis balls in my head. That's how overwhelming it can be. And then the body sensations can feel like explosions, and just so overwhelming. So that's obviously an extreme case, but those students who are struggling in your classroom, they perhaps are experiencing, they're in the Velcro effect, so they're feeling like they are deficient in some way. So here's an example of this boy. His dad continues to put him down. So as a result of that, in his head, he hears, "I'm never good enough." And so that's the words. And in his mind, he also has a picture of his dad. Whenever he thinks of his dad, he just feels like he's never good enough. And then in the body, there are body sensations that are coming with this thought. So the body sensations could be pain through the back and shoulders. So if you think of a deficiency story yourself, or even a problem, you'll notice that there is a response in the body, and they are our feelings. Body sensations are emotions. So I'm going to take you through a process of, it's called simple inquiry, where I will show you how you can help your students to process both negative thoughts and intense emotions. And so the way we do that is, first of all, we befriend the thoughts. So the top layer of the Velcro comes off. So we're just left with body sensations, and these body sensations are our feelings. So feelings are physical sensations. They could be like a heaviness in the chest. They could be a tightness in the tummy. They could be buzzing in your arms. They could be like pressure in your jaw. So often we think of feelings as the labels that we have, like happiness, sadness, anger, and our connection to our emotions this way is a cognitive process. But what we want to show our students is learn how to come into the body, which I didn't even know how to do. I heard people say, come into your body and feel. I didn't know what they meant by that, or I was terrified. But when we actually learn how to feel safe with our emotions, we don't have to feel scared about our emotions. We don't have to keep propping ourselves up. Just a piece on being positive all the time. For me, when I was, depression, as you know, is being in that state of freeze please. So you are lethargic, you are tired, you feel like you're a little bit lower in energy compared to everyone else. So I tried for many years, tried to stay positive. I tried to be upbeat and up with everybody else, and that actually depleted me even more. So we need to move away from positive emotions, negative emotions, and we really need our students to know that it is absolutely normal, perfect to experience the full spectrum of emotions, that is actually normal, and they need the support to learn how to feel safe with both negative thoughts and these emotions that can feel quite uncomfortable, until you know these tools that I'll show you soon. So what we want our students to do is, rather than flip our thoughts from negative thoughts to positive thoughts, or regulate our emotions. Actually, what we want to do is we want to befriend our thoughts and we want to befriend our emotions. The more that we resist our thoughts and feelings, the more they persist. So what we actually want to do is move into a space of connection and seeing our thoughts and feelings as friends. And that changes our relationship with ourselves. So we're not this frightening thing with scary thoughts and feelings. We actually know exactly what to do to feel safe with any thought and any feeling. So I'm going to invite somebody to have a go. I'm going to show you a practice, a strategy that does, I'm going to be honest with you, it does take time to practice, but I just want to give you an introduction tonight on how this looks, to how to show your students to let go of negative thoughts using compassion and acceptance, and also process, integrate and release emotions in their bodies through compassion and acceptance. So if you are feeling up to it, I'm actually gifting this person, whoever says yes, a free copy of my book, It's Okay to Cry. So I'm going to stop sharing just for a minute here. So who is feeling interested in having a go of learning how to let go of a negative thought, or it could be a deficiency story, and processing the emotions in their bodies? And I will send you a copy of my book as a thank you. Sure, there's someone here that's going to be brave. Thank you, Sonia. Okay, do you mind taking yourself off mute?
I hope my background noise doesn't come through.
No, all good. I think it's fine. So, so what I'd like you to do, Sonia, is think about, it's either a negative belief, or it could be a deficiency story, like was it I'm a bad mum that came up before?
Yeah.
Yep. So we could work with that. And so what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you how to befriend and then let go of that negative thought, and then come into your body and befriend and let go of the feeling in your body.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Cool. So for those of you who are watching, you can choose to close your eyes and follow along with the story, with the deficiency story or problem thought that you have in your mind. So feel free to play along at home. So Sonia, we'll start off with some basic mindfulness. Have you practiced any type of mindfulness before?
Yes, I have.
Beautiful. So we'll start with that, and then I'll guide you through this strategy, which is called Simple Inquiry. So feel free to close your eyes, Sonia, if that feels good for you. Just start to put your attention on your breathing. Notice where you can feel breathing happening in your body. And that might be in your chest or your abdomen, your throat, or your nostrils. And now see if you can bring more weight to your body. So almost like you're putting an imprint on the couch. See if you can make your body heavier. And now putting your attention on the sounds that you can hear. And then you might also notice that there's silence in between sounds. And now starting to bring your attention, Sonia, to inside your body and start to notice any physical sensations you can feel in the body. And that could be tension.
Did you want me to share with you?
No, that's okay. I will ask you in a sec, unless you'd like to share.
I just have a lot of tension, I guess, in my chest, in my mid-chest area.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so we might end up working with that. Just for now, can you find, is there space, or can you find, is there a part of the body that doesn't have that tension there? And is there space to hold both tension in the chest and also space where there is no tension in the body?
Yeah, my tummy feels okay.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, so Sonia, what I'd like you to do is imagine that you've got a movie screen in front of your eyes, and I'd like you to plaster or shoot those words up on that screen, and the words are, "I'm a bad mum." So you can see how those words are written. So, and perhaps if it's not a blank screen, perhaps it's a piece of paper where you can see those words written there. Can you see those there?
Yes.
And are they those words in capital letters or lowercase letters?
A mixture. I'm mostly just scribbly writing, not even neat writing.
Beautiful. And are those letters big, small, or in the middle?
In the middle.
And are they close up?
Beg your pardon?
Are they close up or far away?
Sort of far away, and not just one line, like several lines saying the same thing.
Right.
Like on repeat.
Yes. Okay, good. So Sonia, just open your eyes for a sec, just so you can see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I want you to draw an imaginary frame around these set of words that you can see. So the words are inside the frame.
Yeah.
Good. Now put your attention above the frame and you'll see space where there are no words. So you can lift your head up to find that space above the frame. Can you see that? Where there's no words, there's space.
Yes.
Now bring your attention back to the words that you can see. And now bring your attention below the frame and you'll find space where there are no words. Can you see that?
Yes.
Good. Now bring your attention back to the letters and notice how they look now. Now find the space to the left of the frame. So put your attention on the space to the left of the frame. Can you see where the space is there?
Yes.
Good. And bring your attention back and notice with curiosity, notice how these letters look now. And then bring your attention to the right of the frame and you'll notice there's space over there. Can you see that?
Yes.
Good. Bring your attention back to the letters. And as you look at those letters, do they look the same or have they changed?
No, it looks like they're sort of getting smaller.
Yep. So, yep, this is a natural way that these words, these thoughts process when we allow them to be here. So can you now see that there's space between you and the letters?
Yes.
Good. And can you see that there's also space behind the letters?
There is space forming, yeah, and there's not so it's not on repeat now, like it's smaller and it's more like a single line, so the repeat has moved away.
Yep, beautiful. So again, this is a natural way of it processing when we befriend it, when we hold a sense of compassion and then we allow and accept these words to be here. So are they still getting smaller?
Yeah, they're nearly gone.
Okay, so again, this is what naturally happens. So if you were to look at those words for the first time, would you be able to read what that says?
Not now. I feel like they've really faded out.
Yep. So for everyone else, what we've done is we've taken the top layer of Velcro away. So we've taken the words and pictures away. Well, we were just working with words for now. So we've taken the words away.
I did have a picture as well, though.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Can you see the picture there now?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So take a deep breath in, Sonia. And as you breathe out, imagine a mini Sonia is sliding down through your throat into a safe place in your body. Notice where that place is. And from that safe place, just start to notice. You can imagine you've got little mini binoculars. This is good for little kids. They love the imaginary. Start to notice what physical sensations are here in the body. Let me know what you can feel.
All the chest discomfort's gone.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm able to slip down into my tummy area.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before it was too tight to
Mm-hmm.
fit anything down.
Yeah. Okay, good. This is amazing. So this is what happens, right? This can happen this quickly when we process, when we allow the words, the thoughts to be here, then they fade on their own. They release on their own. And then when we come to the body, sometimes it can be as quick as Sonia's. Sometimes we have feelings in our bodies that don't want to move and budge so quickly. So we have lots of different strategies to support that, which I'll show you soon. So how does that feel to be in the body with that open spaciousness and not that sense of tightness there, Sonia?
I feel quite okay. I feel comfortable, and yeah, that thought's not with me at the moment. And it has been a thought that's been with me quite a bit in the last few days.
Okay, there you go. Good. I'm glad it's been helpful. So feel free to open your eyes, Sonia. So you'll see that negative thoughts are something that we often will shy away from or distract ourselves from. We don't want to think about it. We don't want to go there. But when we actually use these strategies to actually, to allow them to be there, to hold a sense of compassion, then they naturally go. We know that thoughts come and go. What our students need is this strategy to feel safe with this thought here.
And I think it helped to actually close my eyes so that you're blocking out anything that you can see, so that you really can see inside you. You can see inside your mind.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And we also, some kids won't want to they won't want to close their eyes. So you can actually do it with, on a blank wall, if there's nothing on the wall, they can imagine the words or the picture on the wall, and that can help some students feel safe as well.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Sonia. So I'll grab your details and I shall send you a book your way.
Okay, so are you going to run through some strategies, I guess, working with children when maybe the first bit is working okay, but then when they get to the part where they've got that mini me moving through them, and
yes.
if they can't get past the body sensations? Am I jumping ahead too much?
I will get to that, yes. That's all coming, yeah. Okay. Cool, so you've just witnessed that process that Sonia's just demonstrated. She let go of that thought with using that sense of compassion and acceptance, allowing that to be there, using these mindful strategies. Just waiting for this to do its thing. Oh, there we go. Okay, so interoception resolves trauma and it increases resilience. So I will move into more of the steps, the strategies now that you guys can use with your students. And so I've come up with 4 steps to feel your feelings. So yes, Sonia, this is what we're coming to now. So the first step to be able to feel safe and feel your feelings, and I'm just going to reiterate, when you come and feel the feelings, because we didn't actually get too much of a demonstration there with you, Sonia, because it just kind of went without too much support. But I'll take you through the steps for those students who are having challenges to sit with and be with and feel their feelings. But the very first step is for them to feel safe and to return to calm. So they're not going to want to go towards their feelings if they're feeling amped up or they're in that withdrawal state. You want them to move back into that rest digest state first. The second one is the second step is to identify the feeling. The third step is for them to stay with the feeling. And then the fourth step is to use a tool to befriend a big feeling. So here are some examples for and strategies that you can take away and start implementing with your students. So some things that you can do with your students, these are nervous system regulation techniques. So it looks like this: stretch, squeeze and melt. So what you're doing is you're coupling your movement with breath, which is always amazing. That's why yoga is so good. And so for this one, what you're doing is you're breathing in as you arch your back and make a fist and squeeze your arms. Breathe in, hold, and then you let go and melt. Do it again. So you could do this like 3 times in a row, and then, and again, breathe in. And the most important part to this strategy is afterwards asking your students to come to the body and notice what physical sensations they can feel. So that might be buzzing in their legs, or it might be pressure in their arms, something like that. That's building their capacity to and strengthening their interoception, so they are aware of what body sensations they have, and that is helping them to self-regulate. So this one is Rosenberg's vagus nerve activation. So I chose these ones because I think they would be great for, you know, when you're shifting from one activity to the other, maybe there's a bit of noise in the classroom and you want them to recenter. These strategies are great for refocusing and helping the students to focus and engage, but also you're helping them to learn these strategies to self-regulate. So this one is clasping your hands behind your head, and without moving your head, you're moving your eyes to the right-hand side of the eye sockets, and you're just looking as far as you can to the right for 30 seconds. Okay, and once you've done that, you come back to rest. Ask your students to notice how that feels in the body. For the younger kids, they'll be like, it feels good, or I feel calm, and you won't get much more than that. For the older students, you can ask them, you know, specifically what body sensations you can feel, and the more that you model interoception, the more language that they will have. So we want to move away from I feel relieved or I feel calm, and we want them to describe the sensation. That will help them to stay with the feeling and be with the feeling rather than back up into their heads. So once you've done the right, then you shift over to the left. So it's like, you know, bring your eyeballs, like looking to the left hand side of putting your eyeballs to the left of the eye sockets and looking for 30 seconds. So there's a whole lot of science on why that works, to bring the nervous system state back into the rest digest. So this one is gradually slowing or gradually increasing with your hands. So as I was saying before, those students who are in that fight-flight response, they're in that sympathetic response, and you want them to you want to guide them back into the rest digest. You will start with fast moving, and then you'll gradually slow. And then for those people who are lethargic, those students who are lethargic, they're in that withdrawal, freeze, please response, then you want them to build up their energy levels. So you can start with gradually and then end up with vigorous speeds. And give them choice as well. So they can decide, well, do I need fast to slow, or do I need slow to fast? So they can decide. These ones are great in partnership, so notice and name. So notice and name is, let's just say you're working with a partner, so they're working in pairs, and I will go first, and I'm noticing the window, and so I name window, so I'll just say window. And then my partner perhaps is looking this way, they can see the picture frame, and they'll say picture frame. So again, this is helping them to be mindful and helping them to come back to that rest digest phase. Mirror movements, it's so fun, right? Get your students in pairs, and obviously this is better for the primary school students. I'm not sure how much secondary students would be into this one, maybe in drama class, but it's like someone's the leader and your partner is mirroring your movements. So it's again, it's helping them to come back to being here in the now. This is what's happening here. I'm following this direction here. So it's out of their heads and back into what's happening right now. Another one here is patting. Like, so this is a self-soothing technique. This is what our mothers and caregivers, dads were doing, and this is a self-soothing technique. So, and ask your students to, if they're open to it, to gauge, you know, maybe they like a faster pat, or maybe they just want it slow, or maybe it's rubbing up and down, or maybe it's a bit faster, or maybe it's just a cuddle. Like, let's teach our students how to actually cuddle ourselves, so we don't have to wait for somebody else to cuddle us. We can actually gift ourselves with that. So we want our students to be resourceful, knowing that they have these tools within them that they can call on at a time that they need. I'm not going to talk too much on this. I have been a meditation teacher, particularly a children's meditation teacher. So I have so many breathing exercises here, but I'm just for time, I'm just going to continue on. If you want to ask me about what specific breathing techniques these are, please just ask me. But there's enough on Google all about breathing. Any kind of breathing activities will help them come back to a sense of calm. So the second step to feel the feelings is to identify the feelings. So here are some things that you can do. So body rain starts with, it's basically using, your students are using their bodies to make the sound of rain. So you can get them all into a circle and like pat really, you know, strong pats on the legs, and together as a whole classroom that will make a strong sound like the rain. And then you can move to like patting arms, and that will sound like lighter rain. When you're doing this, just ask your students to stop and notice if they're patting here, and ask them to stop, notice what physical sensations they can feel in their arms, and they'll feel like a buzzing or a warmth, or yeah, like a funny feeling, you know. So students use a range of, they'll be like, oh, it feels funny, and then you can do this one. So again, this will sound like rain together as a whole classroom, and then stop, and then notice what can you feel in your cheeks. And then the last one is just rubbing your hands, and this makes a beautiful sound, and then stop, and then you'll feel the buzzing. They'll feel the buzzing in their hands. So you can start with like the smaller sounds and build up the sound of the rain, and then back down again. Bee breathing. So this is where you stick your fingers in your ears and you hum, and the humming will create a vibration in their bodies, and so it accentuates the body sensations. So they will be able to feel where the sound is. So I'll say, when I do this with children, I'll say, where can you feel the humming in your body? And so some kids will feel it in their heads, some people will feel it in their arms, some people will feel it in their chest. It really just depends on the person. Again, it's about individuality. So this is not going to be a uniform experience. Everyone is going to experience these sensations in their bodies differently. And if you've got a singing bowl, crystal singing bowl, this is beautiful. The kids love it. And again, when you play something like a crystal singing bowl, the vibration can be felt in the body. So you can ask them, where did you feel it? I felt it here too. Or, you know, talk about where they can feel the sound in their body. So this is a huge piece to this for you to start modeling interoception. So if you're feeling frustrated, I'm inviting you to bring your attention to your body when you're in the classroom, and maybe you've got some floor time and you can share, you know, that you're feeling frustrated, not necessarily about why you're frustrated, although that might help with classroom management, but more importantly, coming down into your body at the time while the students are watching you, and you're describing what you can feel in your body. You can say, I can feel frustration in my face. I can feel tingles in my jaw. I can also feel like a tight thing in my throat, and it's about this size. And I can also feel space around here where there is no tightness in my throat. There's buzzing in here in my jaw, but I can't feel any buzzing here. It's all just like space. It's like nothing is here. I might just see if this feeling wants a bit more space. So I'm just going to see if this sensation in my jaw, or if this feeling in my jaw wants to move into my whole head. And from that place, we're offering a sense of, again, acceptance, surrender, compassion to this feeling. And doing this in front of the students, they can start to see, okay, this is a thing, right? Like, my job is to be curious and start to notice what physical sensations are here. So we're moving away from labeling feelings, talking about our feelings, and we're learning how to feel safe and be with and be connected with the sensations in the body. So what you can do is, when you're asking your students, how are you feeling? I want you to ask a secondary question, where is that feeling? So for younger students, you want to start with the good feelings, because the good feelings are easy to work with. So let's just say a student has just got a sticker and they're super proud, they're super excited. And so you might ask them, how are you feeling? And then they might say, proud. And then you can say, where can you feel the proud in your body? And then they can, you know, some students are really good at this. I have one child who's amazing at this, one child who can't stand it. So over time, he needs more work with looking at the thoughts and processing the thoughts. Whereas, you know, so you'll gauge, you know, where the students need more support. Do they need more support with their thoughts, or do they need more support with their body sensations? Some are very much connected to their bodies. They know exactly where it is. Other students will need more support and more modeling to know where that feeling is. So for those older students, let's just say you have a student who's feeling sad. Like, you might ask a student, how are you feeling? And they might say, oh, not good. And then you might say, well, where's the not good in your body? And then you're guiding them, you're scaffolding this process for them to come into their body and to experience their feelings directly. And that's how we process our experiences, through feeling. You got to feel it to heal it. So the third step is to stay with the feeling. So these are the things that you can do to help your students stay with a feeling. So let's just say, let's just work with this imaginary student who doesn't feel good. And then you've said, well, where can you feel the not good in your body? And so let's just say, I can feel it in my chest. And then you want to ask, well, how big is it? does it go like right up to your head, or does it go all the way down? And some students might say, I can feel it everywhere. And they might need a little bit of support to actually realize, well, it is in a part of the body, and it's not actually the whole body. It is in a part. So it's like, you can ask them, where does it end? Like, where does it go right up here? Does it go all the way down to your tummy? Where does it end? And that shows them that it's not that overwhelming, actually. When we actually go towards it, it's like, oh, well, it's here. And then you want to ask, like, is it moving or is it staying? Or does it feel stuck, or does it feel heavy, or does it feel tight? You want to ask, you know, finding that space around it. So really getting a sense of, like, asking them to describe it. So does it feel tight? Does it feel like a ball? Does it feel scratchy? Or does it feel like it's pulling? And these are our feelings of grief, sadness, jealousy, anger, frustration. They all manifest physically in these very descriptive ways. And so we need our students to be able to describe the actual physical feeling, not just the emotion, the label that we've put on it. So this is more about what you were talking about, Sonia. The final step to use to feel your feelings is to use a tool to befriend a big feeling. So this is when sometimes our feelings can be overwhelming and big and we don't feel safe with them. So this is what you can do. So let's just take this person let's just imagine it's like a tight, or maybe it's a heavy feeling in his chest. And so you can ask him to say, can you say thank you for being here? Or can you pat this feeling and say thank you for being here? Can you tell this feeling you're welcome to stay as long as you like? Can you imagine that this feeling is like your friend? And can you ask it, or can you say I love you, which are very challenging words to say, but the younger kids will be good at that because they're not so they feel safer. So bringing a sense of gratitude to that sensation in the body rather than resisting it, it will soften it. It softens the experience with the sensation, and then it helps the feeling process and clear from the body. So yeah, other things that you can say other things you can ask your students to say is you can stay as long as you like. So it's like seeing these feelings, these sensations as friends, as visitors that are coming to your home. This is how you can talk about your feelings and your emotions with the students in the classroom. You can be like, imagine that your body is like a home and these feelings are your favorite visitors. Like you want to show them how to get into the energy of, yes, I'm so glad you're here. Would you like a cup of tea? Would you like fresh towels? Would you like the master bedroom? I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for coming. You can stay as long as you like. And what do you need? I love you. I'm so glad you're here. We want to show our students how to be with and feel safe with and befriend the feelings, because it's a part of them. It's a part of their experience. When they are resisting their emotions, they are abandoning and resisting a part of themselves. And that's when they feel disconnected and disjointed and dissociated. We actually want them to come to feel connected with their experience, which includes their emotions. I love you. It's another term that you can use. Go with the feeling. So let's just say the heaviness, there's a heaviness for this boy in his chest. You can ask, can you see if you can make this feeling heavier? So, generally we're like, oh, we don't want a heavy feeling, and that resistance makes it persist. So we want to see if we can make that feeling heavier. We want to go with the feeling. And generally heavy feelings, heavy feelings want to move down, and they really are calling for the body to rest, to have deep rest. So this is not a bad thing. This is actually healthy. When we actually go with the feelings, go with how the body feels, then the emotions process more quickly, they move on and clear, rather than us holding these sensations and holding this emotional memory and trauma in the body. So a good question to ask is, does this feeling feel safe? So you will have some students who will not feel safe with this feeling, and they'll want to move out of their bodies and come back into their minds and distract themselves with something else. And in that space, if they don't feel safe, it's important to know that they've shifted out of that rest digest state, and it's not a safe place for them to feel their feelings. The absolute worst thing that we could do is make or encourage our students to feel a feeling when they don't feel safe. So safety cannot happen. Healing, connection, it needs safety. Safety is paramount. So if the student does not feel safe, then move back to the nervous system regulation techniques, or all of those step one strategies like breathing. And what we do is, when I work with people one-on-one, both adults and children, what we would do is we'd bring those words up and process and befriend, let go of the words, I don't feel safe, or what other words are the other thoughts that are making them feel like this is unsafe. So then they feel safe to come back into the body and feel. So that's a little bit more than 2 hours worth to go into. So what words go with this feeling? So you might ask this student who has this heaviness in their chest, is there a word that goes with this feeling? And they might just spring with something very profound. It can happen. And what we do is we pull those words out of the body, we process them on the screen so they fall away. And what happens is the emotion, more of the emotion processes, and the students feel clearer, lighter, and freer in the body. Breathing with a sensation. This is a really great one for you guys. You can easily support a student. Let's just go back to that this example of this boy with this heaviness. Breathing with a feeling, this works incredibly. It's magical the way it works. What you want to do is invite your student to breathe in as they put their attention on the heavy feeling, and breathe out as they put their attention on somewhere in the body where there's space, where there is no sensation. So you've got to set them up first and find the size of the feeling, the sensation, and then help them identify that there's space outside the feeling, and then ask them to breathe in as they put their attention on the sensation, and breathe out as they put their attention on the space outside the sensation. Just ask them to stay with the practice, and you can talk them through it, like breathe in with the sensation, breathe out with the space, breathe in with the sensation, breathe out with the space. And it does take focus and attention. And what happens is, generally speaking, the sensation softens, it relaxes, and it dissolves. Okay, you guys have done so well, and we're nearly there. So just a couple, maybe this is the last one. What you want to do is invite your student to strike up a conversation with this feeling from this space of knowing that the body is supporting you. So we want to befriend this feeling. So what you can ask your student to ask the feeling is, what do you need? Ask the feeling what it needs. And again, you might be surprised by the profound clarity that will come from them connecting to this part of themselves that is needing something. And then another question to ask them is, does this feeling have a message for you? And again, it can be quite profound what can come from that space of self-inquiry. So students need explicit instruction to feel their feelings. If you take anything away from tonight, remember that. And these strategies are what builds their capacity to feel safe with their feelings and helps them to self-regulate and helps them to move out of their head so they're not overwhelmed by what's happening in their head and the stories that are coming with in their mind, and they're feeling safe within themselves, so they're safe with the people around them and they're safe in the world. So strong interoception builds resilience. If you take anything from this, please start practicing building up your own interoceptive skills and model that to your students, and then show your students how to verbalize, describe their feelings, stay with their feelings, and be with those big feelings. So for further resources for you are my book, It's Okay to Cry. That is it's my personal story of overcoming depression, but it also goes into great detail and clear, succinct written form descriptions of the strategies. The strategies that I shared tonight, plus also many more. For those of you who are teachers, I've put an ebook together. It's free. It's on my website, which is www.brontespicer.com. So you'll find that on the homepage. And that has a lot of the strategies that I shared with you tonight in that resource, in that ebook. You'll find It's Okay to Cry, my book, at brontespicer.com//book. I also have a podcast, which is called It's Okay to Cry. And there's a couple of great ones there already on the nervous system and the neuroscience and a whole heap of others, all demonstrating and focusing on this body-based approach to improving mental health and supporting anyone, students, adults, everyone. So we are using a bottom-up approach to support our mental health rather than this just cognitive based. And if you'd like to learn more, then you can email me at brontespicer@gmail.com. You can contact me via my website, or you can give me a call. If you want to learn more, I would love to come and speak to your staff, whether that's online or in person. I have managed to put what I can into this 2-hour webinar with 5 minutes to spare, but there is a whole lot more to this. And what really will change things is a whole school approach where both the staff are being offered these strategies to practice. So you have your own sense of health and well-being. So you are self-regulating, you are aware of what's happening with your own thoughts and emotions. And then so you can offer that space to be emotionally available to and hold space for your students to be just as they are. And then you can model and then offer this explicit instruction so they have the tools within them to feel safe within themselves. So thank you very much for joining me. I shall stop sharing, and if you need to go, I won't take that personally, but I will hang around for questions or even just shares. So we can do that now. It's very dark in here. I'm glad you can see me.
That's right. Thanks, Bronte, for tonight.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I just think with what we're all talking about, I just know with the students that I work with in my school, when they know that you're human and you've got feelings and you've actually had the experiences, it's a great leveler for them, and it just like they do have that whole sense of not just, you know, that it's not just a kids that's got the problem, adults have gone through this as well, like on a different level of different things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. And we all just want to know that we're okay, and it's all right to be human. And yeah, and what you're doing there, Jan, is you're offering that sense of connection and sense of safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some kids, obviously, you know, we're all at different stages of life, and so the kids are different things that they haven't experienced it at home or something. So if we can bring it to them at school, like I said, you know, you missed out on it. I know I missed out on my parents' way to solve things.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. I think it's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Jan. You're welcome. Thank you, Karen. You've recommended the book for those who haven't read it yet. That's great. Kylie, great. Thank you. You agree the book is amazing. Bronte, this has been incredible. Thank you so much. I will definitely be using these strategies with my own children myself and with the children I teach. Thank you. You're welcome, Jan. Great. Does anyone have any questions? No. Any other comments? So I will be, I'll send this out to everyone who's registered, and yeah, so you can watch that in your own time. And if you have questions afterwards, then please reach out either via my website, or I'm on social media as well, if that's easier for you. Oh, cool. Excellent. Thanks, Kylie. All right. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much. Oh, thanks, Jane. Really enjoying your podcast. Bronte, sorry I missed out on this tonight, but I will go back and watch it. Yeah, cool. I will send that to you. Good, and glad to hear that you're enjoying the podcast as well. All right. Thank you, lovelies. Thank you so much for joining me, and good luck. Let me know if you need further support. Take care.